We are here at San Japan 2010 with Amelie Belcher. She is an artist, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her new book, Liquid Snow. Emily?
Loud snow.
Loud snow.
Loud snow.
Loud snow.
For snow is very loud, I think.
I think it's the yaoi thing, you know, the water.
It is loud snow.
Loud
but this
snow.
is my first book in print. So this is kind of a big thing, and this is the proof edition that just came out today, and it's available for pre-order today. And it's the first time I've ever seen so much of my work in one place at one time, and after a year and a half of dedicating myself to one book, it's kind of just like, oh, here it is, it's done. So I'm kind of on cloud nine right now.
So what's your book about?
Well, Tina Anderson is the writer, and it's a yaoi manga, or shonen ai manga, I should say, not as hard or whatnot as it could be. And it's actually a romantic comedy about ancient Inuit peoples living on ice, and the young male lead, Anatuk, is the biggest emo little Eskimo that ever lived, and he's the only gay Eskimo in his tribe. And then beautiful Abalu shows up and is head over heels in love with him, but he's too thick to figure it out, and hilarity ensues, and it's all very cute. Yay.
So where did you get the inspiration for the story?
Well, actually, Tina and I have been friends for years. We met doing cons, and she sent me the script for Loud Snow when she first wrote it up, and I read it and I thought it was really good, and I said, hey Tina, you know, check it out, I did this little piece of fan art based off of your script, which is now the back cover, and it's this beautiful merman thing, and she went, wow, that's really good, do you want to do the book? And I was like, okay. 2 years later, we're sitting here with a final volume, you know, in my hands. It's like, wow. So, yeah. So Tina was the writer and inspiration behind all that. I'm the artist, so I did all the pretty pictures.
So how did you guys publish it? You do it through like a fan, I'm not sure what the pronunciation is for a fan circle?
That would be a doujin circle, but no, we're not, we don't go through the doujin circle. Tina runs Gynocrat Publishing, so we've published the American edition through Gynocrat Publishing. With the German release, it's through Wildside Publishing, and we also have American release through DMP Download, Kindle, and Amazon.com as well. So those are available with, if you don't mind not having a hard copy in your hand, those are available as well. But I like having a hard copy, that's just me. I collect things, so yeah. Not that I don't have all this in my computer at home, but still, yeah.
That's great. I mean, you have any advice for people that are trying to get into publishing? Like,
oh, most definitely. Start simple. The more complicated you make it at the beginning, the harder it's going to be to bring yourself to complete the project. I tried to keep my characters very simple. The back cover art is extremely detailed, whereas the actual art within the book is incredibly simple. So I wanted to try to pick a style that you know you can actually bring to fruition. So, and don't start with something that's your baby. Work with something that you know you're going to be able to learn from when you do that, because you're going to learn doing the process and take that into the next project. So, yeah.
What other projects do you have in the works?
Well, right now I'm looking forward to going back to my first love, which is producing free comics for the internet, which equals starving, but that's my first love. So I'm working on rebuilding a new website. My old website was quarterball.com with the real life adventures of Amelie or Ami-chan on there. And at this point I've purchased my new website, amiarmy.com, and I'm working on the new one, and I'm not only going to archive and continue with the old Ami Army comic, but I'm also launching 2 new ones as well, which will be more in depth than Ami-chan was, not just one shot kind of here's your joke, have a nice day comics, but released in chapters and in longer segments. So
right.
those are the new babies I'm working on right now.
That's great.
Yep.
So the reason why you haven't updated your webcomic in a while is mostly because you've been working so hard on this book, right?
Yeah, most people don't realize comicking is a lot of work, and there were weeks on end where my friends never saw me, and the only time I left the house was to walk the dog. there was actually a sign on my door while I was working on this. One sign said, Amelie is sleeping, do not disturb. The other side said, Amelie is working, do not disturb. And there was no in between. There is so much work that goes into creating sequential art. And
could you talk a little bit about like the process? Like, what was a typical day for you while you were working on this?
a typical day while working on this manga was I would wake up, get up, turn on the computer, walk to the kitchen, make coffee, walk the dog, come back to the house, drink my coffee, sit down at the computer, work. Somewhere around hungry o'clock, something goes in the face, then more coffee, back to the computer, work. At some point, dinner would maybe happen, and then exhaustion would set in, and then to the bed, and then it would repeat itself every day.
So this isn't sort of like a 6-hour, 8-hour work week. This is as much time as you have possible to work on this.
Exactly. At my peak, I was producing 5 finished pages a day, which that's a heavy load. That really is.
And then you have to go through the editing process.
Exactly.
Where you don't actually use all the images you might have drawn. You might have to redraw something.
Exactly. I mean, when you start a page, I was lucky enough. I started hand drawing the whole comic. I found that to be way too time intensive. Manga Studio is actually a brilliant program. It really is. And it saved me a lot of time. They have a sketch feature within that. I was able to lay out several thumbnails and take a look at which one I liked best and which layout I liked best, and then choose within that. Now, if you're doing that by hand, that'd be a whole 3 or 4 hours gone. So the computer really does save time. Manga Studio really was a brilliant, brilliant program to help me in this. But one page should take an artist 1 day. And I was producing 5 a day, which tells you how focused and sleep deprived I was, basically. So
sleep deprived, yeah. I mean, this stuff is really, I do film editing myself, so I have some understanding of the amount of time it takes to do stuff, especially if I'm doing anything with digital special effects. Sitting there, rotoscoping, doing garbage mats, cutting things out, slicing them in, putting, that's really time intensive.
It is.
It is.
It is, yeah.
So I interviewed you for Cosplayers the Movie before, and you talked a little bit about how a lot of people don't seem to think that you can actually make a living with anime-style artwork, manga-style artwork, but you do, correct?
I do. Now, I have taken on a day job since our last interview, simply because the book was so time-intensive that I stopped doing as many cons as I used to. Therefore, I'm not marketing myself as much as I used to. And I just quite frankly wanted to stay home for a little while so that I can rebuild the website and go back to what it is I like to do. But as soon as the economy picks back up, I'm going to be right back in the con circuit. I'm going to be right back on the internet doing what it is I love, and that's making a living selling anime-based artwork. So, and it can be done, much to the chagrin of most art nerds. So,
are you willing to give us sort of an idea about how much money you were actually generating through just selling artwork at the cons?
It would depend on the convention. Smaller cons, you could make 1 month's rent in a 3-day period, at which point you go home and go, hooray, and live off of ramen, for the rest of the month. But when you're doing what you love, that's the price you pay. Other events, while they would drain you physically, emotionally, and mentally, at the end of the day, you wouldn't have to worry about your electric bill for the next 4 or 5 months. So it would really depend on what shows and the quality and quantity of work you're bringing to the table. Now, that being said, I'm no longer producing fan art. From here on out, my work is going to be completely original, just because I'm having a hard time justifying my selling someone else's characters and not thinking of myself as a bootlegger at this point. So it was fun in the beginning and it wasn't that big a deal, but the longer I've been doing this, the more I hear kids say, hey, I want the Edward Elric, or hey, I want the Sephiroth, and I realize they're not buying my work, they're buying someone else's character, and that doesn't belong to me. So that's my piece of advice.
You still feel it's a good way to start out with introduction to commercial art? I'm not sure exactly what to call the business that you're in.
Well, I actually find that because I've been doing this so long and because I have been selling fan art, my portfolio that I would show to prospective clients or prospective employers is 90% fan art at this point. And there's only so much of that they're willing to look at before they say, oh my goodness, look at all these cartoon characters, this girl's crazy. Whereas if it's original pieces and you say, well, I just pulled this off the top of my head, you know, they go, wow, this is genuinely interesting. You're not looking at anything, this is your own work, brilliant. So I've actually found that having that much fan art in my portfolio has actually been a hindrance to me in the long run. So I would not actually recommend fan art as the first step for a blossoming artist alley person.
You would encourage them to make original characters.
Very much so, and I would encourage them to produce a lot of work very quickly. Time is very important when you're an artist. You need to be able to meet a deadline. If you miss a deadline, that's death. You cannot miss a deadline as an artist, and it's also important. If you only have 3 pieces on your table and they're not selling, you got a problem. If you've got 20 pieces on your table, 5 of which are selling, hey, you've got something to work with there, you know. But it's don't limit yourself, and the more work that you produce, the better the quality of the work is going to become. If you spend too much time laboring over one image, it's going to become dry, it's going to become stale, and that's just the nature of the beast. So I'm all about producing as much as possible. So that's my piece of advice. Original work, visually interesting, as much as possible.
So yeah, you have to have a really strong work ethic to survive in this industry. Because a lot of people, they say, you know, you're just drawing, you know, pictures, that's easy, anybody can do that, but there's so much more to it. There's a whole, you know, editorial process, the script writing, the imagining, like, the experience of how the reader is going to see this.
Exactly.
And you just have to really study for that. You can't just, you have an actual art background, right?
I do. I was a high school art teacher for 4 years at Redemptorist Diocesan Catholic High School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I studied classical art, fine arts at Louisiana State University. So I have this classical background. I used to actually, you know, hate anime. But taking my classical art training and applying it to anime, you know, I found there's this whole new world of illustration that's available that if you limit yourself to just anime style drawing, you're not going to see it. If you limit yourself to just classical art, you're not going to see it. But that happy fusion, which is the style I work in, oh, that's just a whole new world of fun that it's just like, oh goodness, yay, I'll get to make sparkles and it's going to be neat. So
is that the appeal of this industry for you, that you get to make sparkles with your artwork?
Well, it's not so much the sparkles, it's the fact that we can get away with so much more in our work. And it appeals to such a broad audience, whereas I find that a lot of artists working today, with you know, the exception of maybe like Banksy and Shepard Fairey and Propaganda, you know, those gentlemen I have the utmost respect for, but most artists working today, I've got the whole Emperor's New Clothes philosophy. It's, I smeared this on canvas, call me a genius, give me 5 million. What? And art has lost its connection to the people. It really has, and people are too afraid to say that's junk because they don't want to feel foolish. Whereas with sequential art and with anime and manga and even American comics, there's still such a broad range of people who are emotionally and mentally touched by this work. Even if it's just one still image, we have the ability to reach out and touch them in a way that, say, you know, a red smear on a blue field hanging up in a museum can't. So that's the appeal of anime and manga style drawing to me at this point. It can really affect someone on such a broad range.
Yeah, you know, you don't really see people like walking around with like dressed like the Mona Lisa or a red smear on paint. You see them dressed as all these, you know, various characters that they have an emotional connection to, you know, and I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, just there's so much about like classical art that is worth knowing. It's really worth learning the masters. I am a huge fan of Michelangelo, huge fan of the masters, and Raphael, and of course Leonardo. Pick a Ninja Turtle, I'm a fan. I study anatomy at home for fun. You know, it's all about the science behind it and how can I make this better, and looking at why things work in a picture and why they don't, you know, the golden numbers, that sort of thing. But so much art has just lost its connection to the common man. And I can't get behind that anymore. And comics will tell a full-blown story from beginning to end, and then somebody can come up and actually discuss everything with you later, and you have this open dialogue just because you drew 6 panels and it had a beginning and an end. And to me, sequentials fulfill the need of all of our entertainment value, and they've been doing it since the caveman days, so yay, nothing wrong, let's not reinvent the wheel there.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. So, Amelie Belcher, San Japan 2010, her book, Loud Snow, gotta check it out. Very, very talented artist. And she's pretty, you know, so
Yay.
check us out.
He's like,